everybody. Jody, would you like to lead us in the pledge and the 4 words?
All right, please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And on the 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Great, thank you. Inspiration.
Okay, I have the inspiration for today. And I'm going to read from my Buddhist book that I read frequently. Train your mind to see the good in everything. Positivity is a choice. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts.
Thank you, Patty. How about, do we have any visitors? And I did not see any but one sign up visiting Rotarians, so we'll get you in a moment. Do we have any visiting Rotarians, first of all? Okay, no. All right, that's it, I guess. Other guests.
I would like to introduce, many of you know him, Chris Barnett, a good friend of mine, and also a past road gateway Rotary.
Yes.
We are so blessed to have Chaz Rogers today. He will be presented for justice, climate justice.
Well, welcome, everybody.
Yes, Sarah Hendricks, by yesterday, from Southern Rotary University Foundation, National.
Okay, let's do some announcements, and we like to have a full program. We always have a lot of things going on. So try to keep your announcements to 2 minutes or less in the interest of squeezing everything in.
Hello there. I have an opportunity for you to start working on your spring cleaning because the Williams Crisis Support Team, the clothing fair, we're taking clothing donated over at the Fair Hotel. Just gently used clothes for women or men. And also just to kind of give you a heads up, we're actually helping to supply Mint with clothing too. So if we don't use it for the fair, it will go off to Mint or another organization. And then the other thing is, the SNP clinic in Talent, who does spay and neutering for feral cats, needs cat or dog carriers. So the solid size. So if you have one, know somebody has a couple, give me a call and I'm happy to come over to that. So see, 2 ideas to clean your house.
Deadline for the clothing fair? You know the dates?
The clothing fair is on the 14th, 13th of April. So you've got lots of time. Okay. April 5th. They'll tell me these dates later on.
Just a reminder about Shoes That Fit coming up on March 20th out at Williams Elementary School. If you would like to come and be able to help fit the children and get everything going for that, we are going to be supplying all 88 of their enrolled kids new shoes. So I've got a nice list of people that have already gone through and have notified me that if you haven't and you'd still like to see about coming out to that, get your volunteer application into the Three Rivers School District. Jim said his came back extremely fast. I know mine did as well. So they may not have a huge amount of overload right at this point. So please go ahead and do that and then notify me if you're going to be there. We'll probably show up about 8 o'clock out at Williams to start unloading the shoes. And hopefully by 8:30, we will go ahead and start fitting children. Yes.
I just been getting volunteers from the central office. They told me if I'm going to school, I have to get it from school. I have to go there. I have to get it.
We actually apply online to get your volunteerism, and then you designate what school it's for. This, yeah, Three Rivers School District.
Yeah, he spoke of a school, a city school, not a.
Okay, so. Yeah, Three Rivers School District, Three Rivers School District is what you need to go to, not District 7. If you have questions, get a hold of me afterward, because I'm gonna make sure I'm not running over.
Okay, just real quickly, I was at, breakfast in the park this morning, and, we're seeing around 80 to 100 people, every Thursday now, just at, mostly at Riverside Park. I'm passing out the, schedule to sign up for what you'd like to bring. Johnny Jones did 2 of the casseroles today, and, yeah, clapping back there is Patty, who managed to do 6 muffins. Anyway, so this is gonna come around. What we're finding is we're running out of casseroles. So I am adding 1 extra, each week to have kind people. Kaver's already, been on it. And, put her name on there. I'll be putting my name on there. We're also looking into hygiene kits, and we're gonna be talking at a board meeting about that quite soon. And, well, there you have it. Okay, so the fundraising group for Porch Fest has been meeting and working really hard. And so we have, $14,500 already committed. We've already collected 3,650. So, and we have, as you can see, lots of potential that we're going after. All right. But what I'd like to ask is if anybody knows a business, as a friend or a relative or neighbor in a business that owns a business that you think might be a sponsor, we have packages that you can deliver to them. You don't have to ask for money. We'll do that. Just we need names and possible sponsors, and if you can tell me, then I can get you a package. I can give it to you electronically or physically, but anything would help. So thank you. I'm expecting that all of you are going to be really moved by Chas Rogers' talk today. And so just in advance, I've put these things out on your table. There's a flyer for Help Us Permanently Protect Pipe Fork that you could post somewhere. Save Pipe Fork, a sticker, and the Williams Forest Community Project, all about them. So all of this is on display up here, and want to remind you to come and check that out later. Thank you.
2 announcements. One, I think I sent out an email, a female email, remind everybody that the trees planting along Hillcrest Avenue for the Veterans Village Housing Project was postponed until we get all the civil engineering done and we know where the water lines are going to be. So stay tuned for that. It'll probably have to happen next winter when the weather is appropriate. And then second announcement, thank you, Patty, for reminding me about Porch Fest. We're going to need people to sign up to help gather signatures. So Porch Fest to go around. Some of you are new. Porch Fest is an event we put on, music festival in town, where we schedule free bands. They play for free on porches, and we close down the streets around those areas, and we collect donations to sponsor it. That's how we fundraise for ourselves. The first thing we do is collect signatures of the neighbors giving us permission to close the streets down. And so we're scheduled to do that in March, about the 20th through the 25th. It takes a number of different trips through the neighborhood to catch people at home. So stay tuned for a P-mail asking for people to sign up for that. It's about a 1-hour task to walk around asking for signatures. Thanks.
Thanks, thanks, everybody, for being so speedy in your announcements. You know, there's a very important part of the club, and in which we give out some awards to different people for different things, but Kirk Brown's gonna come up and do the ceremonies for us.
That sounds appropriate. Well, almost there, anyway. It's, we always, ask the donations foundation, it's always great that when a person reaches, a pinnacle. And so today, I'm going to, presenting Paul Harris Fellow. And a little background that Paul Harris Fellow recognition is the name for our founder, Paul Harris, who founded Rotary with 3 business associates in Chicago in 1905. Paul Harris' presentation was established in his honor in 1957 to express the appreciation of the contribution of $1,000 US to humanitarian educational programs of the Rotary Foundation. These programs include an array of projects to save and invigorate the lives of people around the world and enhance international friendship and understanding. We know it better as doing projects, international projects and local projects that the Rotary Foundation helps funds. These activities are funded, implemented, and managed by Rotarians and Rotary clubs around the globe. And Rotarians also designate a Paul Harris Fellow to recognize another person whose life demonstrates a shared purpose with the objects and missions of the Rotary Foundation to build world understanding and peace. As we move closer to a peaceful world today, as Ruth Springer, it becomes a Paul Harris Fellow. Let's come on up. So let's, on behalf of the Rotary Foundation, it gives me great pleasure to present you with the certificate. For me. You're a Paul Harris Fellow. And your Rotary Paul Harris Fellow pin. So I encourage you to wear that Paul Harris pin to all Rotary events as a symbol of an appreciation for support and programs of the Rotary Foundation. Please accept congratulations and sincere appreciations for your commitment to our common goals of world understanding and peace. Rotarians and friends, please congratulate and recognize the newest Paul Harris Fellow, Louis Crandall. I'm not done yet. I really like doing these things because residents, it really shows that these people are committed to the foundation. So just bear with me for another one here. Becoming a Paul Harris Fellow, however, is a milestone, not a destination. We ask those who become Paul Harris Fellows to continue supporting the Rotary Foundation. I'll pay attention to this. And we recognizing as multiple Paul Harris Fellows at such times as they contribute an additional $1,000 to the Rotary Foundation. With each additional $1,000, they are presented with a pin with a stone, either a sapphire, well, really get this red glass. I mean, up in blue glass, or ruby, which is red glass, indicating their total level of contributions. So today we have the privilege of recognizing 2 of our club members for their wonderful support of the Rotary Foundation, Michael Bird and Gina Marie Capasta. Your contributions to the foundation of Rotary National are allowing suffering and improving living conditions somewhere and providing educational opportunities for young people somewhere in the world. Your gifts are truly selfless actions and demonstrate your commitment to our common goals of world understanding and peace. Therefore, on behalf of the President of Rotary National and the Chairman of the Board of Trustees, it gives me great pleasure to present to Michael your Paul Harris with 2 blue stones recognizing 3 Paul Harris contributions.
Thank you very much.
And Gina Marie, it's my pleasure to give you the Rotary pin showing. Yeah, show it with 4.
Oh.
represents, 5 donations and appreciation, your generous contribution to the annual programs fund of the Rotary, and on behalf to extend sincere thanks. Please congratulate the multiple Paul Harris Fellow.
Thank you, Kirk, and thanks for your generosity and congratulations. All right, I think that leads us to Michelle, who's going to introduce our speaker for the 3rd time. So welcome, and look forward to hearing from you.
Hi, this is such a pleasure for me to introduce Chaz Rogers. Some of you may have read on our email that he is a geology professor at RCC and an environmentalist who has worked tirelessly with local watershed councils to restore habitat for salmon and wildlife for over 25 years. Now, he's working to reverse the trends of habitat loss to keep our forests intact as a way to slow down global warming. Today, our efforts to continue to educate the public about the benefits of old growth forests as we explore ways the earth has to regulate the temperature. So last night I was thinking about Chaz. I just started to cry. So moved, my experience with him since I moved here 9 years ago. I would say he's, if some of you know Robin Wall Kimmerer, Braiding Sweetgrass. Yeah. So she says, perhaps we have not loved the earth too enough that we find ourselves in this situation we're in. And for me, of all the people I know, Chaz has loved the earth the most. The water, the air, the rocks. Oh yeah, he's also on the board at Crater Rock Museum. The animals, the forests. And so it's really a great pleasure for me to introduce Chaz Rogers today. Oh, I didn't cry. So you can adjust the microphone.
All
Or you can take it out, whichever you want.
Okay, I'll set it up here. It looks good. Sounds good, right? Yeah. Okay, so I'm Chaz Rogers. Chaz stands for Charles. Chaz is a little more familiar, so it's the same thing. I am a geologist, basically. But since I came here to Oregon, I started working with the Williams Creek Watershed Council doing in-stream habitat restoration for salmon. And I still do that today. I'm also on the board of the Applegate Watershed Council. And as Michelle said, on the Crater Rock Museum, and actually fairly busy with the Williams Community Forest Project on the board there. So I'm here to basically just talk about forests themselves and sort of how I vision them. And I put together a presentation to kind of give you an idea of, you know, the importance of forests, or at least a little smidgen of idea of that. And here's the outline here. I'm going to talk about ancient forests a little bit. Then a little bit of forest justice, which is something that we can all do. And of course, the old growth Bill of Rights, which is something I think would be really neat to have someday. And finally, I'll talk about the Pipe Fork legacy forest that we are working diligently on right now. Let's see.
I'm probably aim it this way.
Did it work?
Was it on the side? If not, I can just.
Okay. We'll just go to the next slide. Okay, so I want to talk about first the first forest, astrology. And so these are Devonian trees that first appeared on Earth. And this is sort of a drawing, so there's no pictures of this. It's an extinct tree. Really kind of interesting. It's by Walter Myers, who, you know, does some ancient drawings. I just thought that was kind of neat. They're very low-lying forests, nothing like what we have today, but you know, a good example of how forests have evolved into something more. Now, the next forest I want to talk about really is in the Devonian, which is 385 million years ago. These are the first really great forests, the Archaeopteryx. And this is a drawing of the forest and what they might have looked like. Most of them were within the wetlands themselves, low-lying wetlands, and fairly restricted to these kind of habitats. And you can see that these are sort of the early type forests. Here's a root structure of this tree that they found in a New York quarry, and they excavated that to decide, you know, well, what is that underneath this quarry? Well, it turns out it was one of those trees. So it's really quite interesting to see that we do have some good examples of those trees today. So here's a picture of what Paleozoic forests would have been, of course, in the wetlands, along streams and rivers and the marshes. Sort of different like trees than what we see today. These were the early trees that we look back and see. This is the first kind of plant that was able to rise up out of the earth and build a strong structure to support the canopy. So here's a picture of the trees of the Carboniferous. And the Carboniferous is a really important period, 360 million years ago. This is the time when forests became king. These are amazing times. This is where we get most of our coal today, was from the Carboniferous, and of course that's what they call it that. They have lepidodendrons, cycads, and of course calamites. I can point out. Here's lepidodendrons right there. Oh, poor thing, I think the battery's weak. Lepidodendrons are the tall ones, the calamites are the short ones. The cycads are sort of a palm-like plant right in there. So those are the major forest varieties in that forest. The other thing about the Carboniferous, it was the age of insects and spiders, salamanders. So we think of them as the forests are so important, but the insects were something amazing. When we think about the age of the dinosaurs, the age of mammals, so this is the age of the insects. Here's the size of the giant dragonflies that existed. And you can imagine these were pretty prevalent. One of the reasons why, because the CO2 level was so high during the Carboniferous that the plants just expanded like crazy. And the first forests were amazing. We didn't just have dragonflies, we had spiders, and we had all kinds of other insects that were really prevalent during this time. So this was really an important period of our early Earth. Spiders were that big, yes. So were the millipedes. They were 6 to 8 feet long. So it's hard to imagine some of that, but that's just really kind of part of our history. I also put a chart on here showing global temperatures. And one of the interesting things about this is the Carboniferous is right about, I'll point it out, right there and where it dropped. See that big drop there? That is where the Carboniferous occurred. And as soon as the plants started covering the earth in forests, the temperatures dropped. Because plants take up CO2 and give off oxygen. Well, CO2, of course, is our greenhouse gas, and oxygen is another gas that's really important, but it doesn't really hold temperatures real well. So that was our first indication of sort of global cooling process, is get a lot of forests on the ground, you know, build these swamps and things, and preserve carbon. And of course, Carboniferous plants and trees all fell into the swamps. They were covered with sediment and of course preserved for all time until we dug them up. So the idea there is to look at some of the temperatures. Now, one of the things you want to see on this chart is not the details, but the fact that, you know, things started off pretty warm up there, especially after the Carboniferous, during the Paleocene and the Eocene. Then it started tapering off. You notice as the forests start expanding, the temperatures reduce in our atmosphere and on our planet. And that's really an important aspect to think about when we think about plants themselves. As soon as they arrived, of course, the temperature started to drop. So, next slide. Oh, hey, I got it going. My battery's starting to work a little bit. Of course, one of the things during this time, of course, were the gymnosperms, were the first kind of conifers. We have the conifers, cycads, and ginkgos that occurred in the Mesozoic during the dinosaur eras. And these were really important. Of course, the first conifers are really pretty active. We have monkey puzzles today. Of course, cycads and palms are still around. So those are kind of the early forests that we'll find. The angiosperms appeared during the Mesozoic. Angiosperms were super important, the first flowering plants and trees, broad leaves. And of course, now the angiosperms are pretty dominant on our planet. And of course, we can see the magnolia here. And then the fig are examples of these angiosperms. The other thing that we find with angiosperms are flowering plants. And of course, flowers are really the result of that evolutionary process of, growing flowers, attracting insects, causing pollination, and the process goes on. A real good symbiotic relationship, insects and plants. So we're going to think a little bit about those. And of course, the Cenozoic era conifers started covering the landscape. Really important for us that we think about today. And it looks a little bit archaic, really nice, lots of ferns, lots of moss and other types of plants there. The other thing that happened right after the Mesozoic are the grasses appeared. 60 million years ago, we didn't have grasses before that. And today we have a huge variety amount of grasses. Now, it's not just your lawn type grasses, bamboo was real important, plus all these other stocky types grasses. And that will help hold carbon, collect CO2, give off oxygen, and of course, cool the planet. So that's a really important aspect after about 60 million years ago. So here's another temperature chart during the Cenozoic. You notice right at the beginning of the Paleocene, then we get into Eocene, temperatures are kind of high. This is right after a major extinction period, right after the dinosaurs were dead. Things were trying to recover. It takes millions of years for a species to kind of recover from that. And then we started seeing the temperatures drop. You notice the CO2 starts being reduced in our atmosphere. The forests are starting to get going. The grasses are getting going. So we see a big temperature drop in here. Now, there are a lot of complications in this. It's just a broad overlook. The other thing we want to see is Antarctica move to the South Pole. And of course, captured up a lot of moisture in the glaciers there. So ocean levels dropped. And of course, lots of things happen. The Earth is very complex. So the broad scope and the broad look at forests themselves are just a way of trying to understand, what are the effects of forests over time? So we get down to, modern forests and what do they do? Well, one of the things that's so important is trees take in carbon dioxide from the atmosphere along with sunlight and convert it into carbohydrates and sugars, making their structure. So really they're living off the atmosphere itself. They give off oxygen, which of course is a great thing, and they build these tall edifices. And of course, that's the trunk themselves. So it always amazed me to see the trees building up this stuff, the lignin and other carbohydrates, and just the strength of that material to be able to rise up so high and build into these massive structures. And some of the massive structures, are many tons of woody material. So one of the things, of course, trees store is the canopy itself. There's quite a bit of carbon in there. The trunk has an enormous amount of carbon storage. And then the roots, and of course, we think about the roots themselves have about 50% of the carbon storage of a tree. And it's not what we normally see. And the tree continues to store carbon in the soil. And the soil builds up and continually puts more and more carbon down into the soil itself. You can kind of see soil carbon means rotting leaves, debris, living material that's part of the carbon structure itself. So really the trees are bringing that carbon and putting them down into the soil, which of course builds great soil. And the earth, the real great thing about the earth is we have great soil. So how would we live without that? That's probably one of our main things in life. So essentially, the trees are really carbon storage system. You know, and probably not the major carbon storage systems. It turns out, if we look back in geologic time, the major carbon storage systems is really erosion and clay itself. Clay absorbs carbon dioxide so prevalently that it basically dropped the temperature of the earth many times. We even had huge ice ages because of the carbon storage just in clays. And of course, many times in the earth, carbon just gets absorbed by clay and soil. So that's really one of our great storage systems. Okay, so look at old growth today, and we're just looking at the United States. We can see that this shows a couple charts. 1620. This one here is 1620 is how much old growth was here in the US. Then 1850. We're on the top. Now down here is 1926 on the bottom left. And then today we can see some splotches of old growth scattered throughout North America. So we don't have as much. Now, obviously, there are some trees out there, there's young stuff coming up, there's vegetation, but none of these big, giant storage systems are real important in taking the carbon and putting it into the earth. So here's some recent temperate forests. If you've seen those, you know, you get a large old growth tree growing amongst a lot of small ones. It's growing up tall and it lasts for a long time. The other trees are growing up to sort of replace it when it dies or breaks down. And of course, in the soil itself is where the roots and the carbon is being stored, and is one of the major systems that we find in our forests today. I took a picture of a ponderosa pine, and you can look up into it and see the canopy and the trunk itself. Just the amazing amount of carbon storage just in the leaves and trunks and branches. And then, of course, I stood by the base of this, you know, and I stand by these things and I just imagine how heavy are these? You know, how massive is this thing? And it's so amazing that it stands up like it does. It's estimated that the tree itself holds about 50% of the dry weight is carbon. So this really needs a real good example of where the carbon is going is into the woody material, the roots, and the soil itself. So this is one of my favorite places to go, just to walk amongst these giants. Okay, so one of the things that we thought about here at the Williams Community Forest Project is how could we protect this, and what would happen in the future if everybody thought this is really a great thing to preserve these old growth trees? And we sort of developed this old growth trees, the Forest Bill of Rights. So what would a Forest Bill of Rights look like? And I wrote down a couple of different things. You know, trees have the right to exist in their environment. Okay, sort of a basic thing of rights. They have the right to own the land they grow on and sequester carbon in the soil. They will be granted carbon dioxide they need to grow. Okay. They will have the right to the water they drink. They will supply oxygen to the air. They will filter the air of dust and particles. They will provide habitat for wildlife. They can support mushrooms and other mycelium, provide shade, evaporate water, and cool the air. They, of course, will store carbon from the atmosphere. I put a little breakdown of where the carbon goes. 17% is in the above ground tissue, 6% in the roots, 5% in the surface litter, and of course, 72% in the soils where it remains for long periods of time. So again, the old growth are doing this, whether they're alive or dead, they're still storing an enormous amount of carbon. So we have to think about the fact that these trees are real important to preserve. So I'll move on here to the old growth of Pipe Fork Creek. Pipe Fork is a pretty amazing place. When I first came to Williams, I was told to walk up in there, and I first started working at the Watershed Council. They said, walk up in there and check it out. And I just couldn't believe it. It was just an amazing place. Well, it was left alone for over 100 years. This is what we call a legacy forest. A legacy forest is one that has been entered and had a little bit of logging done on it, usually before the 1920s, and I believe about 1915, they went in, did some springboard logging, probably for some lumber for some project that they were working on at the time. So now it's been left alone. Of course, is left alone for quite a while. Pipe Fork has a huge amount of cedars. Of course, we have Port Orford cedar, Western red cedar, and incense cedar all grow in various different places around Pipe Fork. One of the things you want to look at is these are pretty dense stands, pretty massive trees, huge amount of debris scattered around the surface, and no telling how much carbon is stored in the soils themselves. So these are really great places to, you know, hold on to, especially now, since we are entering a time when excess carbon is causing problems and will cause problems no matter what we do in the future. So the idea is this is one way of keeping that out of our atmosphere. There's a couple friends that went out with me just to kind of look at some of the old growth trees, and we walked around, took some pictures and looked at them. These are a few examples of some of them. There's one of the Port Orford cedars. You notice the gray, silver gray bark, elongated structure. Well, I could only get the base of it. You know, taking a picture upwards doesn't really help much, but that's and one of the great things about these Port Orford cedars, they have these real frilly kind of fern-like leaf structure, really amazing pattern system in their canopy. So they're very unique trees. They're very sacred to many different cultures. Port Orford cedar has been used for building temples in Japan and Asia. They're preferred because of the enormous structural strength and beauty of the wood itself. Well, so I did this painting. You notice the painting right here. I became a painter. I never painted before in my life. Well, this inspired me. I needed to paint these scenes that I've been seeing out there. So I started painting the forests. This was a location that I really enjoyed in the Pipe Fork area, with a few Port Orford cedars in there. And at this point, what I'd like to do is show you the movie that was developed on Pipe Fork. That Kevin Peer did. He and I worked on this for about 6 months, and this movie was put together to kind of let people know about it, garner support, and show people what the habitat was like. She's going to start for me.
It is a little known place, hidden like an uncut gem surrounded by verdant forests on the east flank of Grayback Mountain, near the town of Williams, Oregon. Pipe Fork, it is called, a secluded realm of waterfalls and cascades, quiet pools, and sheltering collections of stream-bound woody debris, nestled in a lush riparian woodland. The headwaters of Pipe Fork emerge from lands preserved by the Bureau of Land Management as a research natural area, or RNA. Over 500 acres of ancient forest set aside to ensure the continued existence of Oregon's easternmost community of Port Orford cedar. Elsewhere in its range, this tree has been devastated by a fungal pathogen. But here in the Pipe Fork RNA, they and other species thrive in their protected isolation. The great beauty and feeling of refuge to be found here has inspired the act of Pipe Fork being nominated for designation as a federal wild and scenic river. Its water runs cold and clear and abundant year-round through a narrow and deeply shaded canyon wilderness. It is a quality and quantity of water that is exceptional these days due to the effects of frequent drought and the fragmentation of watersheds by clear-cut logging. From the undivided sanctuary of these intact forests, Pipe Fork flows down into the Williams Valley. There it becomes the East Fork of Williams Creek, providing generously to farms and homes and enabling rich nursery and spawning conditions for Chinook and coho salmon. The riparian area and surrounding forests of Pipe Fork provide a vital wildlife corridor between high and lower elevations, home and passageway for such charismatic creatures as the mountain lion and the black bear, the endangered Pacific fisher, and the rare northern spotted owl, as well as many other animals and plants that thrive only in the domain of a mature forest. But unfortunately, even here, bordering the protected sanctity of the BLM Research Natural Area, the threat of clear cutting is a real danger. Josephine County owns a 320-acre parcel that encompasses both sides of Pipe Fork and has had plans to auction the timber rights in the spring of 2021 for clear cutting 114 acres on the north side of the creek. That is 114 acres on a steep mountainside with unstable granitic soils that are highly prone to erosion. Here is a clear cut that has been underway by the Josephine County Department of Forestry during the making of this film. This is what the forest on the south-facing slope next to Pipe Fork would suffer if the clear cut were to happen. Destruction like this would reach to within 30 yards of the creek. Sediment from runoff and landslides would follow its immaculate water. Summer stream flows would decrease and become warmer, no longer a source of pure, cold, plentiful water to the Williams Valley. But the citizens of Williams are determined to prevent this clear cut from happening, and encouraging progress is being made. The BLM has expressed a sincere interest in acquiring the land and protecting it by enlarging the boundary of their research natural area. Talks are currently underway with the Josephine County Commissioners that will, if all goes well, lead to the sale of the county parcel to a respected conservation organization, which will then transfer ownership to the BLM. Pipe Fork and its surrounding forests are supremely worthy of preservation. By ensuring that this venerable place is permanently protected, it will continue to be a refuge for a diverse array of life and will endure as a source of pristine water for the benefit of humans and wild things alike.
That's a film that Kevin put together for us, just to help us promote this project. Kevin is gone now, he's over in Africa doing some filming there. He travels the world doing this, so it's kind of a normal thing for him to do. So we'll go on here, I got a couple more slides. You know, what is an RNA? If you heard that, well, research natural area. this is something that the Oregon legislature put together in 1973, was to establish the Research Natural Area Preserves Act. And that act said that the state should seek out these natural areas, these unique spots throughout the whole state, and preserve some of them, because Oregon has such a variety of habitats and ecosystems. So the Natural Areas Plan was established to select these natural areas and protect these ecosystems. Pipe Fork Research Natural Area was established in 1995. And it was basically there to protect the Portoffer cedar, which is the easternmost stand. It's an isolated stand outside the normal realm of the Portoffer cedar. And of course, this was what it is now. It's just a small area. Can you go to the next slide? So there's a picture of Pipe Fork. That's always been really interesting to me is the wall of ferns that we find. This is just one picture of many walls. This is a steep canyon with these waterfalls and very difficult to walk through, but the ferns are pretty amazing. Here's one of my favorite pools, the upper pool. There are about 7 different waterfalls throughout here with associated 3 or 4 pools. This one has the maiden pair of ferns, so really kind of a neat little area. We found leopard lilies in there along the waterfalls and in the water zones to protect the space. This was the third and fourth waterfall in here in the system on the left. This is just a picture of the research natural area, what it looks like, and you know what Pipe Fork looks like in general. And that's the same one that I painted. Obviously, I didn't do as good a job as that, but I just, you know, I was compelled to do this and try to, you know, try to feel it, you know, try to get some unique qualities to that and understand what's there and put it down. So that's in the process now. We are still struggling on purchasing this property. We did manage to get a Land and Water Conservation Fund grant from the federal government approved by Congress. This was a miracle in itself. And they were willing to pay whatever it took to buy this property. Well, we did our assessment, a yellow book assessment, and came up to $2,020,000. Well, we were really happy because this is way over what the commissioners were asking at the beginning. They were asking 1.6 million. We didn't know how we were going to come up with that, but $2 million seemed like a cincher. We promoted that to the commissioners and they just looked at it and said, wait a second, we want more than that. So now they've given us a different price and it's considerably higher than the $2,020,000 that we have. Unfortunately, the grant can only pay what the assessment said. So we're at the process now of trying to find more funds. We're doing fundraisers and some people in Williams are starting to donate money. And we're going to go into negotiation with our commissioners. So that's our next step. And do you have any questions? Can I answer any questions about? Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about the process of forming an NRA? It sounds like it's a state legislative justification. Is there a way that can be used to expand the current boundaries?
Well, you know, essentially, that's what developed the grant itself. The Land and Water Conservation Fund was applied for through BLM and their managers. We helped them formulate the grant proposal, which they could administer that grant very easily. So they wrote the grant and acquired it over $2 million, which I think is pretty amazing. To me, it's a magical thing to actually get this kind of grant to be able to save a piece of land like this. It's not a very large section of land, 320 acres. But it is really valuable because it's right next to this RNA and has the same habitats and would be very complementary to the existing RNA. Yes.
Where did the county commissioners come up with their new required monies,
So we don't know,
and they're not.
and they're not telling us. They have what they call trade secret.
I heard.
And I don't know what a trade secret is with the government like that, and maybe if you're making some kind of product, that's good. But they don't want to tell us how they came up with this money, this extra money. It's over 750,000 more. And we don't know what's gonna happen next. But we are in the process of, we are gonna go into negotiation with them to try to find a middle ground. Some way that we can still purchase it, but satisfy some of their interests in. I guess they thought the property was much more valuable than what the appraiser came up with. The appraiser is a yellow book appraisal. This is designed for federal sales to private property, so this is the gold standard of appraisers. Costs us $19,000 for the appraisal. Yes.
On your Forest Bill of Rights, interesting looking at that, you only show 4 rights that the trees, the forest have, but the next 6 are what we get with their rights.
No, isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I think these give us more than we.
Name it the Forest Bill of Rights and benefits.
Yes, and I looked at the Bill of Rights for the Constitution, and there are 10 different rights. So we need to correspond that, that needs some more work, obviously. This is off the top of my head, so.
Interesting.
But if we get some founders in there, we could probably do that.
Yeah, are there trails through there?
Well, there are some trails. Now, there's an old logging road that curves up into the upper portions, but there are no trails into the RNA. And
The reason I'm asking is, could it be possibly designated, or some portion of it designated as a park, parking area, picnic area, trails through it with little signs saying this is this kind of tree, and et cetera, et cetera? Have you considered that?
yes, that is in the works. My dream is to have a big portion of the riparian section, and of course, some of the ecosystems annexed into the RNA. And the rest of the property, there is a road that kind of curves up to the canyon. And above that road would be recreational areas, and the roads would be decommissioned into trail systems. And of course, signage, bridges, I have a whole map, and I've already written some grants to do this, but we can't move forward on those because we don't own the land yet. But it's all possible, and it could be very amazing. One more question. Okay, who wants to ask another question? Okay, there's a question.
I just wonder if the commissioners have been able to see that video, that movie.
We sent the video to the commissioners, last year before. They've seen that. I don't think they're interested in that. They are, their statutes say that they have to get maximum value out of their forest lands. That was established, about 10 years ago. And so when they sell the land, they have to get as much as possible out of the property, and not, so I don't know how that works. But somebody's determining something, we do have one commissioner that's really interested in supporting this process, and that's really great. All we need is one more. But swaying them over is a little bit difficult sometimes, but we've tried, and we'll continue to try. We won't stop. We are looking for donation. We are getting some donations from local people. It doesn't amount to another 750,000. But we're hoping that might satisfy some of the needs that they have. And if you know anybody who wants to donate or interested in seeing Pike 4, we do have a hike out there this weekend on Saturday. We have hikes out there and take people out just to see the landscape. Obviously, you can't see all of it in one day or even a few hours. It takes several trips to really get into the wilderness. And of course, the wilderness itself is very difficult to move through, very slippery logs and dangerous and that kind of thing. And I've been through there, so I know. But there are some trails and some easy access too, right along the road, that anybody can see exactly what the habitat looks like through there.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for coming. And I hope you'll stick around for a few minutes afterwards and take questions, because that was fascinating. I could have listened all day. Thank you. It struck me how we define maximum value or whatever the phrase was. It seems to me there are so many benefits beyond the monetary ones. It seems maybe they ought to redefine how they evaluate the value of this property. Okay, with that, let's see, where's Lutz? Here we go, Sergeant Arms. Oh, one more thing. Sorry, just a second. If you need to leave by 1, do not be embarrassed. Understand some people need to be elsewhere. If you just walk out if you have to. But gotta go.
That guy will humiliate you. The results of our last contest, which were misheard song lyrics, didn't get a lot of response, but I got some nice ones. Starts out with Margaret at an early age, mishearing row, row, row your boat, thinking that the last part of it was life is but a dream. And you wonder what went through her little mind at that point because of an image. Kurt reminded us of a couple of good ones from the Beatles, The Girl with Colitis Goes By. A mishearing, and from Neil Diamond, The Reverend Blue Jeans. But the winner this time is Jody.
Again.
Because she misheard Dire Straits, Money for Nothing, and the chicks for free, to Money for Nothing and the checks for free. And if that isn't the perfect response from a bank manager, I don't know what that is. So the coveted Dutch Bros gift card goes to Jody this month. Okay, are you tired of contests? You want me to just go on to want another contest? Okay, let me give you some books that have just come out. There's a one called How to Write Big Books by Warren Peace. There's Irish Heart Surgery by Angie Oplasty. School Truancy by Marcus Absent. I Lost My Balance by 2 authors, Eileen Dover and Phil Down. There's one from China, Mystery in the Barnyard by Hu Flung Gung. And Stop Arguing by Save Your Breath. So you can imagine what I'm going to ask you to do for this next one, right? You're going to come up with a book and an author that's in that same kind of a format. Send them to my email address. The easiest place I can keep them all sorted out. But I'm sure Bailey's going to go back to his office and come up with about 6 of them now, like he typically does. But for some of the rest of you, I need some more participation. Okay. All right. How about Happy Bucks? Got Happy Bucks out there? It's a beautiful day. There got to be some Happy Bucks.
All right, I have a couple Happy Bucks. I wore my forest earrings. Yes, I won these during the Super Bowl contest, and so another kudos to Greg and the team on that great event. And I also wore it for you, Chaz, because of the trees. It was just perfect, right? The other thing I forgot to say last week is that I have Happy Bucks because I finally have my dental implant process done. I don't lisp anymore. Now the 2nd graders won't try to show me how to pronounce it. No, it's TH. And it's like, I can't do that unless I take my teeth out. I'm a real grandma. Here we go. Anyway, so.
John?
Yeah, I only have 2 Happy Bucks, so that fits, because this morning I delivered 2 tubs of breakfast
to the homeless in the park, and it was a delight to see.
It is, I second that. I'm gonna be happy about the same, I'm sad about all in one. I had an old buddy, I've known for 30, 40 years, come visit me this last week and had a great time catching up on each other's lives, over, too much booze and too many cigars. That's that part of it. But we should see him again. And another happy, I want to congratulate, you Les for coming to Palmer, so, so that's my happy about. Good.
Support, thank you, Bucks, but I'm happy, Michelle, for inviting Chaz, and I'm happy that Chaz came and shared his work with us. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Remember that other good novel, Under the Grandstand by Seymour Butts?
So I have what is a sad buck, but then it transitions into a happy buck. So we're trying to develop this project for veterans housing up on Hillcrest, and we need to access a water main that goes underneath I-5. That goes into another piece of property, and we approached the guy for access to the water main on his property, get an easement. And he, at first off, was very accommodating and said yes, and then he changed his mind and said no. And so like, oh shit, what are we gonna do? And then, so then we started having conversations with ODOT to get access to all the right of way on their property to create this easement and the water main run through there. And they've been extremely accommodating and easy to reach and easy to talk to. So it's just been lovely dealing with them. It hasn't happened yet, but at least so far it's been very easy. So really appreciate that.
I have a happy back. Greg and I were traveling this last few days. We were in San Francisco Monday afternoon, and our flight was delayed, and Greg went into the bathroom and he came out with Luke's.
I've been waiting in there for a waiter. My flight back from Vegas took 22 hours. I finally got in to Medford at 3 a.m. after a number of holdups.
Hi, I have $5 for Happy. My husband's granddaughter is graduating from Hastings Law School, and we will be spending some time in San Francisco to celebrate with her.
I would recommend anybody flying through San Francisco right now to give yourself at least 4 hours or so.
Yeah.
To touch, yeah, it's you're down to one runway, and if there's wind and so on, it was terrible. Anybody else?
Okay, for the last 4 months, I've been in a bad lupus flare and haven't been coming. Haven't been doing anything, just sitting on the couch, but Friday went to my doctor. He tripled my dosage of my medication, gave me a shot of prednisone, and I feel better. So I'm back.
Good to see you, Patty. Anyone else? Gina Marie.
Yeah. Well, I'm not as bad off as Patty, but I was out for 2 weeks of COVID, and it's so nice to be better again. Man, it is just a pain when you're sick.
Anybody else? Okay, let's do the card. You have a card for us? Five of clubs. Are you sure, pal? Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Lutz. Thank you. Before we wrap up, the gentleman who made that film, I guess with you, but his name is Kevin Kevin Beer.
Here.
Here, Kevin Beer, here. Susan, would you stand up, please? Susan Bonison. Susan has been in contact with him and has invited him to come to speak to our club. It'll probably be under Judy's watch next Rotary year, but he's made some incredible films and he's off in Africa and I think he's going to Asia after that. Anyway, interesting guy, wonderful film. So thanks, Susan. It's work on the program committee. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so a little preface to the thought for the day. So facing challenges gives life purpose and makes it interesting. And the quote is from C.S. Lewis: "You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream." Thanks, everybody. Take care.